A Nascent Kaleidoscope. Chapter 86. Izanami POV. Well, that was certainly something. I set my phone down to stop recording. I glanced over at Yasaka, and she seemed quite surprised by what had just occurred. I can't really blame her. I did not expect the fight to end so abruptly. There were several things that I wanted to seek out answers on. They seemed content to just match each other for many exchanges. Then Will decided to bring out a large-scale magical attack out of nowhere. Brat, telling me abruptly to put a shield up around us. It was a good tactic, and he seemed unharmed from his own spell, so I can't really say anything against what he did. But that final attack, I don't know what he did. It was like fate rewound and then fast-forwarded according to his whims. That is most certainly not something a mortal should be capable of. At one point, there appeared to be two of him attacking simultaneously. Okita defended against the one attack him from the front, but it didn't matter as he was pierced by the Wilhelm from behind. I could tell that both of them were real, as opposed to some kind of illusion or a creation of sheer speed. You have quite a few secrets, Wilhelm. I looked down, and Kunu's eyes practically sparkled as she watched her daddy fight. It was still amusing to think about, yet I could completely see him acting as a father. It seems like it's my turn now. I stepped forward towards Yasaka. I shall take him. She was broken from whatever stupor she was in. Lady Izanami, are you? I do not intend to harm him. I will make sure he does not die and deliver him back to his master. I stated plainly, my annoyance with him aside. That look on Will's face when the man appeared still made me upset. That stupid boy, telling me that him and his father are merely estranged. It is clearly much more than that. Is that so? Yasaka steeled her expression. A message is it? She raised her eyebrow. I do not like others touching things I care about. While the strongest of the devils is someone I begrudgingly admit is stronger than me, it does not mean his people can do whatever they want. I may not win against him in a fight, but I'm more than capable of making him lose. Those ridiculous world's strongest ratings are mostly nonsense. Yes, I would not be able to win against someone like Indra in battle, but it is not like he would be able to destroy me with ease just because he is ranked above me. I watched Yasaka's lips curled up, giving me a knowing smile. He looked quite good, didn't he? Fighting against someone whose name is world-renowned. She fanned her face exaggeratedly, giving me another sly look. He performed adequately. I responded. She pursed her lips. I may need to stake my claim sooner than I thought. If he goes around and does this more often, imagine how many women would want a piece of him. This fox, trying to even tease me, is she? Are you that intent of us becoming sisters? I turned towards her, take a step closer. Perhaps you wish to get more familiar with one another? Yasaka's eyes widened briefly, before a large grin emerged on her face, and she started to giggle. Fine. She waved me off. Point taken. I won't meddle anymore. Humph. I crossed my arms, a small smile on my face. But I wouldn't be against it either. She smirked at me, almost making me react. You are one horny fox. Girl, the last time I was with a man can be measured in years. She deadpanned. I guess it would be difficult to bring any kind of lover around Kunu if they weren't going to become a permanent figure in her life. I tilted my head, mentally calculating the time for me. Centuries. I muttered. Do women count? Well, if we do then, it's a lot shorter than that. She laughed. Well, I do appreciate how she is relaxed in my presence. I don't exactly hate her being friendly with me. It's nice to not have someone reeling back because of my existence. I should probably grab him before he bleeds out. I sighed. That would be bad. She nodded. I don't think I could wash my hands of this if he bled out on my front yard. I walked over to him, letting my shadows grab him and bring him somewhere else for now. Keeping him intact wasn't hard. He wouldn't die on my watch, and I needed him alive to send my message. I enjoyed my time with you. Thank you for your hospitality. She smiled. You are welcome back anytime. I'm sure my little Kunu wouldn't mind seeing her Auntie Izzy in the future. Moom. Kunu gave another little squeak, and I had to resist the urge to scoop her up from where she was sitting and hug her. Thank you, Mrs. Anami. She stood up and bowed, her ears twitching slightly on her head. Cute. I headed off in the direction where Will went. Wilhelm POV. Wow. I was going to be riding his high for a long, long time. Wilhelm. Izzy's voice sounded off behind me. I straightened myself up, the bench I was sitting on not very large as I made room. She walked over, sitting right next to me. "How are you doing?" "Good," I said almost absent-mindedly. I mean, relatively speaking. I think I'm doing better than I have been for a while now. "Would you like a hug?" she asked. "What?" I was a bit surprised by her request. "You seemed a bit distressed earlier before the fight, and I did not know if you were still upset. I apologize if I was too forward. I know we haven't known each other for that long and—" "Izzy," I cut her off. "I would love a hug." She made a small little noise as I wrapped my arms around her. She was a bit hesitant, but she reciprocated all the same. I guess I held some stuff back. I spoke as we separated. Only some very important details. She rolled her eyes. I could tell she was annoyed at me, but not angry. "I was born to Kashimoto." I leaned back, looking up at the sky. "My mother died when I was young, and I was taken in by my father's people. I lived in a house by myself. I grew up all alone, and when I finally left that life behind, I changed my name to match my grandfather's. It was one of the first times I've ever talked about this. I was pretty much forced into a certain box to live my life. Every time I attempted to leave that little neat box, I was forced back into it. That's probably where my resentment of my father comes in. They didn't know I knew magic, so one day I just up and left, with a bit of fanfare. Wow, just kind of blurted it all out. I saw her smile faintly, not so much appreciating my little backstory, but more so that I was trusting her with something personal. "I honestly cannot picture you going about mundane schooling," she mused. I let out a small snort. To be truthful, it really grated on me at some points. I shook my head. Not all of my memories of that time were something to dismiss. But it wasn't all bad. I was also in the theater club. "That I can believe," she said almost instantly. "Oi, what's that supposed to mean?" "Well, I don't want to stereotype." "Are you implying—" "I am implying nothing." "I'm pretty sure you are. It must be your imagination." She smiled lightly. "I was merely saying that you can be rather flamboyant sometimes." "Sure, that's what you were thinking about." I rolled my eyes. "I think someone's miffed about the whole barrier thing earlier." I suppose you're smarter than you look." She pursed her lips. Yeah. I yawned, stretching my arms. "What's going to happen with Okita?" "I kind of just left him there, too caught up in my own head." "I took him." "Oh." I paused. "And what are your plans with him?" "I was going to send him back to his master," she said plainly. "Well, alrighty then." She looked at me. "Are you not curious?" "What?" "Did you think I would assume you were going to torture him, or something?" I leaned my head onto her shoulder. "You know I trust you, right?" "So it appears," she whispered. "I was going to take him back to Yomi, so I could send him to the devil's underworld. Easier that way. Metaphysically, I guess Yomi is closer than Earth to hell." "That is correct, though I would have to go through Hades' realm." She paused. "It has been a while since I've contacted him. Persephone is generally okay to speak with." "I haven't heard good things about Hades. You sure that's a good idea?" "The relationships between death deities is different than that of the corresponding pantheons," she explained. "Perhaps it is a sort of kinship, but most pantheons don't have much contact with their deathly realms, minus those reward-based afterlives like Valhalla." She sighed. "Hell, Hades, me, Yama, Anubis, Ereshkigal, etc. While pantheons for the most part like to pretend other gods do not exist, we keep in touch with a cordial relationship." I did not know that. I was actually surprised, but it made quite a bit of sense. Now that I think about it, we generally gather every few centuries, and we haven't in quite a long time. She hummed. "I wonder if there will be another gathering soon." "Really? What do you all talk about?" "We mostly just bitch about whatever happened recently." She let out a small laugh. "Hades talks about his idiot brothers. Yama doesn't shut up about how overworked he is. Ereshkigal about how barely any souls come to her realm anymore. I should probably seek out Persephone instead of Hades. That girl gets jealous so easily." Izzy shook her head. "Are you going to be okay?" she asked me again. I sat up and took a deep breath. "I'm good, really." I paused for a moment. "And I may disappear for a bit. Probably won't be reachable by phone. I have some things I need to take care of." "Is that so? How long do you intend to be gone?" she asked. "No more than a couple weeks. Probably. I did some mental calculations in my head. She stood up, waving her hand and summoning a portal down to Yomi. I will see you at a later time. See you later. I waved her off. I'm really happy I met her. I'm annoyed you didn't use me. Really? Why don't I just paint a giant target on my back? I'm sure that would be the easier option. No one knows I'm even here. What if Albion shows up? He'll think he's ahead of me. Or, what if we wait until shit really hits the fan? Then bam. Boosted gear comes out and saves the day. Would be cooler than just a duel where nobody saw. Dre grumbled but relented. You better not be blue-balling me here. There is some shit I have to deal with here in the future. I sighed, thinking about the messes my presence will have likely caused. Are we going to a new world soon? Yeah, I wanted to spend some time with Kunu, then I was going to leave. You sound like such a dad already. Fuck off. I rolled my eyes. I couldn't help it. I honestly don't know what came over me when it comes to that little girl. Though I want to look for a way to develop my power of destruction. I yawned again, standing up from my seat. I've been thinking about a lot of stuff, and I think it's time to stop holding myself back from that. Power of destruction is pretty good. It would do you well to develop it. Yeah. I scratched my cheek. I probably could have done something by now, but better late than never. Chapter 87. The more I think about it, the more confused I am about how this even came about. But honestly, I wasn't complaining. All right, now pick anyone you want. I held out a stack of cards. This one. Kunu pulled one out of the deck. All right, make sure you remember it. I shuffled the deck of cards. Now, show your mother, but absolutely don't let me see it. Mom! Kunu called out to Yasaka, who was sitting nearby, watching with a small smile on her face. I see it, sweetie. Okay, now remember, don't tell me what it is, okay? Okay. She nodded. What card is it? It's... Don't tell me. I teased her with a little boop her on the forehead. Now, put it back in the deck. I turned away. Okay, you remember what it was, right? Yes. She nodded. After shuffling for a moment, I held the deck up. Now! I wiggled my fingers. Abracadabra! I exclaimed, pulled the card off the top. Is this your card? No. Kuna looked confused. Oops, my mistake. I shook my head, drawing another card. It's this one. I exclaimed again, showing the next card. Nope. This one. No. What about this one? New, huh? I started going through each and every card until there was only one left. Okay, then this one must be your card. I pulled out the last card and waved it around. That's not it. Kuna pouted. I scratched my head as all the cards from the deck were now in a messy pile on the ground. You know what? I think you mom might have your card. I looked over to her, and she just blinked in confusion, then looked down at the table she was sitting at to see a card face down next to her. Kunu ran over and picked it up for both her and Yasaka to see. This is it. She shouted excitedly. How? Yasaka looked at me with eyes widened. I cheated, but it's fine as long as Kunu is happy. And I gotta get one over on Yasaka. Curse me, will you? A magician doesn't reveal their secrets. I took my hat off and bowed. Standing straight, I held my hat out and all the cards flew off the ground into my little storage space. I'll get your secrets eventually. Yasaka gave me a look that promised she would get her way. Mom, don't ruin the magic. Kunu pulled on her mom's sleeve. Yeah, don't ruin the magic. I held back a laugh. Oh, being ganged up on by both my daughter and her father, woe is me. Moom! Kunu whined again. It seems like that still embarrasses her. She's so cute I can't even. Lady Yasaka. A Tengu dropped down from the sky, kneeling before the Yukai leader. He bowed his head and presented a letter. She unfolded it, reading it intently as her expression turned into a scowl. Wilhelm, would you please watch Kunu for a little bit? I have something that requires my undivided attention. No problem. I nodded. The amount of trust one managed to garner that she would willingly leave her daughter in my hands. Though I guess it was unlikely I would do anything from her perspective, having brought her daughter back in the first place. Be a good girl for your daddy. Yasaka gave a kiss on Kunu's forehead, much to the little girl's chagrin. I'll be back in a little bit. She flashed me a smile and disappeared away with the Tengu. Well, now that your mom is gone, I can show you my super secret magic trick. I winked at the little kitsune who looked a tiny bit hesitant with her mom no longer there. Super secret. I held my hat upside down. You ready? I smiled as I reached inside and pulled out Sir Wiggles. Kunu practically squealed as she pounced on the rabbit. He's so cute. Sir Wiggles took it in stride, allowing himself to be picked up by the unknown girl and his fur stroked. What's his name? He is Sir Wigglesbottom Fluffytail Octavius Benedict III, Crown Prince of the Emerald Kingdom, Duke of Carrot Island. Oh, God damn it. Hee. Or, Sir Wiggles for short. She squeaked, pushing her face into his fur. If only for this singular moment. Making Sir Wiggles my familiar was worth it. It makes me not want to leave after this, but I suppose having something to come back to is nice as well. Seeing her play around with Sir Wiggles, it gave me something I didn't know I needed before now. Izzy Kunu, I guess I have some important people bonding me to this world. I can't very well abandon it now, even if I wanted to before. My intent was just to take a passive approach, deal with threats to the world as they popped up the sort of curve my karmic debt here, but that doesn't really seem like an option anymore. I don't want to allow anything to exist that could threaten them. I couldn't help but sigh, even as a smile never faded from my face. This was supposed to be a vacation, but I seemed to have found something amazing. Princess! A few yokai walked out into the courtyard, calling out towards Kunu. Your mother requests you. Was it that time already? I looked up at the sky, and the sun was already setting. Time really does fly. Shall I take you back to your mom? I smiled down at Kunu, who didn't look like she wanted to leave. That will not be necessary. You are dismissed, human. One of the guards stepped forward. I paused, then just sighed again. I guess something happened, and they don't want an outside here for the time being? Well, this is goodbye. I pat Kunu on the head. No, she said quietly, hugging Sir Wiggles tighter. Hey, I'll be back, okay? I kneeled down next to her. Promise. Of course. I held out my pinky. Pinky promise. She giggled slightly as we interlocked them. She let Sir Wiggles jump out of her hands and into my hat again. The look she gave me was frankly heartbreaking. Gods, how did I get attached to this girl so quickly? I just don't understand it. This way. One of the guards ushered me, a little annoyance on his face. Odd. Well, whatever. I stepped out of the courtyard, the guard following close behind me. Would you pass on my goodbyes to Lady Yasaka? I'm going away for a bit, and won't have a chance to speak again for a while. He just snorted. Get moving, human. I paused. My instinct was flaring that something was wrong. I turned around and narrowed my eyes at him. What exactly is your... No. Daddy. A loud scream echoed out across the compound. My head snapped to the direction of the voice. I didn't even look as the guard escorting me drew a weapon, aiming for my neck. It never reached me, as his head started rolling on the ground, and Mirage flew next to me. What happened next was sort of a blur. I burst back to where I was before, seeing a yokai trying to rein in a struggling Kunu with several more standing around. It only took a moment for her to be in my arms again, and about a dozen bodies falling to the ground. An explosion erupted not too far away, the shockwave managing to ruffle my hair. She's over here. A shout was heard as a few more people burst into the courtyard. Human, hand over. The others stared at shock as the one speaking fell to the ground, his head bouncing onto the grass, my sword floating next to me with a small trail of blood down the edge of the blade. Daddy, where's Mom? Kuna looked like she was about to have a panic attack. This could not be healthy for a girl this young, who had been through something traumatic not too long ago. I'll go get her, okay? I pat her head. No, don't leave me. She cried. I'll put you somewhere safe. I whispered gently. My grandfather can watch over you, and he has a very nice student who is like a sister to me. She'll love to meet you. I opened a portal and quickly ushered her in. She was in shock, and I didn't want to make things worse. Fuck! Did you just send her to another world? Yeah, I said quietly, running a hand through my hair, staring at the few remaining yokai who were watching my warily. I griped my hand, using telekinesis to yank one off the building ledge he was standing on, bring him down to the ground with a thump. I quickly stomped on his back as my swords flashed out and made quick work of his friends. You have 10 seconds, speak. He coughed out some blood. Disgusting human, your time will come. I sneered, holding out my hand for Mirage to fly back into my grip, then slamming the blade down onto his neck. I turned around as another portal opened up, a very familiar application of the kaleidoscope. "Artoria!" I blurted out as she walked from the portal. "Will!" She nodded. "What are you doing here? Did Gramps send you? You dropped a crying child into the kitchen. Do you think we wouldn't be worried?" She raised an eyebrow. "It isn't too hard to make the leap to assume that whatever is happening was enough that you couldn't guarantee her safety. It's not as bad as it looks. I may have panicked and reacted on instinct to one of the only places I could think of that was safe," I admitted. "Is she?" Artoria gave a small smile. Zelretch was quick to calm her down, and Rin is good at distracting her. "I see." I ran a hand over my face. "Good, that's good. Will, what's going on?" "Someone attacked. Probably some remnants who are pissed off. I don't know everything, but I think Yusaka may be in danger. Or she is the danger. I don't exactly know what's going on. Someone tried to grab Kunu again and..." I paused for a moment thinking everything through rationally. She was betrayed. No doubt someone close to her was able to pull some strings, so she was separated from her daughter. I muttered, "Why? Why go after Kunu again? I mean, it was the easiest target if you wanted to get to Yusaka, but what's so important that you needed that kind of leverage?" "Will, focus." I snapped out of my thoughts. Right. I clenched my fists. "Well, you're already here, and it isn't quite what I had in mind for a date, but would you like to take care of some would-be kidnappers with me?" She steeled her expression, a look on her face that promised pain for whoever was behind this. "I would be delighted." Someone was going to fucking pay for making my daughter cry. Chapter 88. Artoria followed behind me as we moved through the compound. I actually didn't know where Yusaka was, nor where the main fights were happening. Every so often, I could find some people, usually able to tell who is the enemy and who isn't. There were some surprisingly powerful foes that popped up, and equally surprising, there were friendlies who engaged them. Honestly, I did not expect this faction to have such powerful combatants waiting in reserve like they were. Several who would fit under the banner of ultimate class, even if that whole system of measurement was basically malarkey. "How are you doing on mana?" I quickly asked as we scaled a rooftop to get a better view. "I'm full, and I was given this." She took out a jewel I didn't recognize, but I could see it was full of Rin's magical energy. Zelretch said it should work for an emergency. Good thinking. Though, it wasn't a perfect recovery tool for her magical energy. Since she was a servant, a spiritual being, she couldn't generate magical energy as if she were alive, and trying to forcefully drain the jewel of its contents would cause much of it to go to waste, simply running off in the process. I looked around and noticed a much bigger fight in the distance. Tengu were taking to the skies, and several groups clashing while some large explosions lit up the sky. Many types of yokai I couldn't recognize at a glance were joining the fray. "Wilhelm, there." She pointed a little off to the side. A swirling pillar of mist burst out. "I briefly saw women with 9 tails. I assume that is the woman you are looking for?" "Yeah, and that should be Dimension Lost." I muttered. "Dimension Lost?" She asked in confusion. "Shit, I never did talk about the sacred gears here. Think of them as noble phantasms." I didn't really have time to explain the differences, but I would rather he be wary of the strange weapons than not. "Noted." She nodded. "Do you have a plan?" "Yeah." I took in a deep breath. "Teach some kids a lesson they will not forget." I frowned, trying to rack my brain around who all was in that little faction of theirs. Kids! Idiots who think they can do whatever they want because of some stuff they inherited from their ancestors or some other nonsense. "I will follow your lead." I smiled, holding out my hand as she took it, and I pulled us both through a portal right to the big dome of mist. I put my hand on the large dome and cast my gaze inside briefly. I saw Yusaka battling a group of people and somewhat handling herself, but she was slightly wounded here and there. Without a second thought, I drew Mirage and pulled on the kaleidoscope. With a slash, I cut through the false dimension that was cutting off the fight from the outside world. The mist dispersed aggressively, stopping the fight as all eyes turned to us. "Wilhelm!" Yusaka called out as she retreated several yards back. "You!" I saw George shout from the corner of my eye. The hero faction. More of them that I didn't recognize off the top of my head. "I guess the lesson I taught you last time wasn't enough," I lazily replied, not giving him much attention. Yusaka quickly reached our side. perhaps trying to buy herself a moment's respite. Kune, where is she? Her eyes practically dilating. She's with my grandfather, completely safe. I gave her a reassuring smile. Yasaka let out a long breath. Good, she said quietly. A big boulder a bit away started trembling, and a large man climbed out of some accumulated rubble. Fucking bitch. He spat as he stood up, dusting himself off. Friend of yours. I raised an eyebrow, glancing at Yasaka. She sneered. Idiot calling himself Hercules, said he was going to harm my daughter. Ah, the idiot who boasts about having inherited the spirit of Hercules, and I looked around and noticed a blonde girl. If I recalled correctly, she is the same but with Jean Dark. I paused, reining in my quickly flaring temper. Did he now? What about you? Her eyes turned to Artoria, standing to the side. I don't believe we met. She's the one who I grabbed to heal Kune before. Greetings, I am Artoria. Artoria stated. Wilhelm, is it? Another voice cut through the tension in the air. I recognized the person and the spear he held at a glance. Chow Chow, are you trying to run your ancestor's name through the mud even more than you have already? I didn't want to hear any spiel he was going to give. So you do know me. Well, usually I don't remember dumbass, but kudos, you're at least above the common rabble. He frowned. I don't think he was used to people insulting him so blatantly. This doesn't concern you. Why are you risking your life for these? Yukai. Are you trying to find common ground with me, perhaps convince me to step to the side? I rolled my eyes. Besides, saying I'm risking my life implies anyone in your little posse can even take it. I was going to break him. I could snap you like a twig, Hercules shouted. A little magician and a little girl he brought with him. Why are we even talking? A little girl. Artoria quietly repeated. A small twitch of her eyes told me exactly how she felt right now. I grew up on the internet. Insults don't really faze me, but I'm sure it's an entirely different matter for her. He's all yours. I smiled towards my girlfriend, eyes not leaving Chow Chow. I wanted this little faction of his to be destroyed before I finished dealing with him. What? Am I supposed to be scared of her? He laughed. Come on then, little girl, I'll show you a real man. He threw his head back, posing like an idiot. You can even have the first hit. He didn't even try to hide his laughter. Artoria didn't answer. Instead, her magical energy exploded off her. Armor formed around her body, her armaments manifesting from within. Her dragon's core practically roared to life as everyone in the area felt her presence. She moved before most people here could even understand what was going on. A fist buried itself deep into Hercules' stomach. I saw everything as I reinforced my eyes. Every moment as his eyes widened, blood flowed out of his throat, and his body practically crumbled and lifted off the ground, only to be blown into the side of the building. Oh, Yasaka said quietly, perhaps readjusting some thoughts she had about Artoria. Honestly, I should have been paying more attention, but one thought was distracting me. I fucking want her right now. Rein in the dragon. I don't even care if anyone is watching. I want to make her mine. Maybe she's having some sort of effect on you because of her magical core's origin. Probably. I reluctantly pushed down those thoughts, with a mental promise for later, when we eventually get to that part in a relationship. Watch out! I ducked to the side as a certain holy spear passed by my head. Oh shit! Yeah, God-killing holy spear. Need to pay attention. A kid covered in shadows, suddenly charged, swiping his hands in the air. Shadows rose up from the ground like blades and swept the area. Oh, sacred gear, noted. Yasaka bat them away easily enough. The Tuki pulsing off her was palpable. I don't suppose you know anything about them? Edgy kid wearing the sunglasses manipulates shadows with a sacred gear, equally edge name. I spoke, dodging another swipe of the true Longinus. That's barely helpful. She deadpanned, stomping on the ground, creating many boulders as she grabbed with her Tuki and threw at the shadow manipulator. My sword swung out, as holy sorta burst out of the ground like thorns. None were powerful by themselves, but holy power was still practically lethal to me. Discount Jean Dark can create holy swords. Forget the name of that one too. I noticed! Yasaka shouted, throwing a large waft of fox fire at edgy shadow guy before cracking him across the face with her fist. That's gotta hurt. Words can be hurtful. Discount Jean spoke, creating many more holy swords that burst out of the ground. Seems like she can do that on any surface. Well, you should give it a try, would be a better shot at actually damaging me. I retorted, stomping on the ground myself, raising an earth wall between us. I ducked under the true Longinus, but this time Chow Chow entered my range, using his spear as an actual spear with some degree of mastery. Despite my dislike for the guy, he was quite good, but he was no scat hack. I gripped Mirage in my hand, deflecting each blow, knocking any his thrusts, and any attempts he made to inject holy power into me. There was no hesitance to get close to me. He was adept enough to fight with such a long spear in close combat. Hell, he was actually fairly quick. I wouldn't say he was on par with Okita in terms of pure speed, but his eyes were able to follow my movements. When I attempted to exploit his openings, he was able to react in time to not be skewered. What an annoying opponent, though. He only had to lean into his spear's power to eventually defeat me. From his perspective, that is. A decent hit from that thing's edge, and I would go down like a sack of potatoes. Bindings of Gaia. I invoked one of my 9 realms spells, Whisper doing the casting, so I didn't have to distract myself. The roots burst out of the ground, almost as if they were alive, and shot out towards all the enemies in the area. Chow Chow swung his spear around, cutting them, only for more to burst out as he grabbed some distance. Jean flicked her sword, attacking the incoming tide with her own barrage of holy swords, seemingly putting them into a temporary stalemate as it took many swords to fell one large root. I wasn't done. Freezing winds of Jotunheim, I spread my arms out as the deathly cold cascaded out in all directions, taking caution not to encroach on my allies. Chow Chow slammed his spear into the ground, his holy light surrounding him like a barrier, but Jean took the brunt of it, a root grabbing her leg and the cold air catching a stray limb before she could escape. Her arm did not look to be in good shape, a deep blue color as if all heat in it had died. I didn't have time to mull over the thought as Chow Chow's spear extended towards me again, taking off a few stray hairs. I decided to cast all my physical enhancement spells, earning a surprised noise from him as I closed the distance and slammed my sword down on his spear, cracking the ground under the blow. What? He spat out, arm shuddering under the blow. And Suz. I invoked a rune, shooting it into the distance as the space sort of vibrated, revealing a George who was preparing a large-scale spell in a tiny subdimension. Whisper launched up to the sky where he was preparing to cast it, disrupting it with my own runic insertions. I took a step back as Yasaka launched a kick at Chow Chow, who brought up a spear to block, knocking him back several yards. Handle the magician, please. Yasaka looked towards me, bursting from the spot she was in towards Chow Chow and Jean. Fine, I muttered, focusing on George. Yasaka probably would want her own time beating the crap out of these guys, and it was kind of hard to do with a kid who could manipulate Dominions interfering. George snorted, waving his hand and bringing forth dozens of magical circles, a small smirk on his face. I raised up Mirage. Spell circles began to spin around the blade, my magical energy soared, and the kaleidoscope vibrated. Ether cannon. George's eyes widened as all his spells flailed hopelessly against my cannon, and he shot out the dimension lost in an attempt to seal the attack, only for it to push through like the sacred gear was paper. George, Chow Chow shouted, an expression of shock on his face for the first time this fight. He tried to run to where the collision happened, but Yasaka intercepted him, laying down attacks with enough force to shatter the area. Chow Chow took a few good hits, blood running down his face before he regained his footing. You don't get to flee from me after attacking my daughter. She growled, the area literally quaking with her steps, even as she reined herself in. She was after her own pound of flesh. The fact that she wasn't going full-on fox was telling of how much she wanted to handle this intimately. Fuck off, bitch! The Shadow Kid ran at her, arms wrapped in his shadowy power, and started pulling all the shadows along with him. Thorn of inky darkness shot up out of the ground. They coalesced and reshaped to his whims, all aiming for Yasaka, so Chow Chow could disengage. I looked over to the side and saw Artoria handing Hercules his ass even as he used his sacred gear to attack her. Is that all? Her words echoed across the battlefield as an explosion rang out in her palm where she caught his fist, not even budging. What the hell? Hercules shouted, his muscles visibly tightening and straining to try and move her but failing miserably. Clench your teeth, boy. The only warning his got before she reeled back her fist again. Oof. Those sounds he made sent a shiver down my spine. If I remember correctly, his sacred gear caused explosions on impact. She caught the explosion at point blank and didn't even react, must have thrown him for a loop. I shook my head with a small smile, turning my attention back to Jean. Jean slammed her sword into the ground with her good arm. A massive dome of holy swords started forming around me. Cute trick, actually pretty smart, but hopeless. 200 birds. I swung Mirage in all directions, destroying the holy sword prison before it could fully form. She didn't relent. Every swing of her sword. Many more holy swords followed in its wake, but she was trying to overcome quality with quantity, and she most certainly was not in the best of shape. I snapped my fingers. Several runic circles appeared above me. Lightning! I called out. One of my simple arias to invoke my spell as bolts of lightning cascaded down on the one who hosted the spirit of Jeanne d'Arc. Her sword, her rapier, thrust quickly in my directions, intercepting the magical lightning. Impressive. Flicking my hand, a few talismans appeared between my fingers. 3 elements sealing formation. I invoked as my 3 talisman flew out to surround her. They formed a triangular sealing spell. Her body became visible stiff as her movements became hampered. Runes spun around my arm as I pushed them on the ground next to her, reinforcing the spell to a further degree. Can you not handle this little girl's blows? Artoria's fight seemed to get near us as she began taunting him, not even drawing her weapon. I saw her look over here many times, but she didn't move to interfere, probably because we weren't really in any danger. The shadow guy was keeping Yasaka distracted, purely because he would not stay down. If any sufficiently lethal attack was about to land on him, he would kind of fuse with the shadows and mitigate the damage. I could tell Yasaka was starting to get annoyed, and I would rather she not start throwing around blows that topple buildings in this constrained area. I withdrew a certain bloodthirsty spear from my ring, aiming for a moment. The muscles in my arms bulged as I threw it with all my might. It shot across the battlefield. The magical energy mixed with the intense bloodlust drew eyes from everyone, but the shadow user couldn't even react in time as it caught him, carrying him to the side of the building, impaling him through the chest. I turned to look at Chow Chow, who was supporting a very hurt George. Mildly surprised he was still alive, even if it wasn't a very strong ether cannon, was still an ether cannon. The irony of impaling the spiritual successor of Kanla with Gibalg. I spoke towards the holy spear wielder who grit his teeth. Yeah, Shadow Kid inherited the spirit of Siyu Chulin's son, who died to his father's spear. He was kind of forgettable, so I didn't remember until a few moments ago. If looks could kill, well, I doubt he's even a fraction as furious as I am about Kunu. I looked at Jean, who still couldn't move, and nodded to myself. It wasn't the strongest sealing spell I knew, but it was fairly robust. Artoria threw the beaten body of Hercules on the ground near us, striding over without even being winded. Chow Chow was silent, looking around at his defeated comrades. George, we need Sieg and Arthur. He looked at his barely conscious companion. George was not in good shape. Half his body was burnt pretty bad, and I don't think his right arm could even be called an arm anymore. Chow Chow pulled off a necklace he kept under his collar, a small vial in his hand as he poured it on George. A visible phenomenon alighted over the boy's mangled body. A phoenix tear, interesting. The tears of the devil phoenixes that live in the underworld, that so-called Pillar Clan. One of the most potent healing items that can be purchased on the market. But even with that, he didn't look all that good. But he still responded. The dimension lost connecting space as 2 more people walked out. The aforementioned Arthur and Sieg looked around. One looked like a typical English gentleman, the other wore a priest's coat. I'll take the one dressed as a priest. Yasaka walked up next to me. She was looking a bit better, even if she still had dried blood on her. Sieg looked at her, pulling out 2 swords. Balance Breaker, Chaos Edge Azura Ravage. He called out as 4 more arms sprouted from his back, each wielding a demonic sword, while one was holding a light sword. I'll handle the fox, you get the other one, Arthur. He called out. Twice critical. A subspecies, I believe. Neat. I guess I am your opponent then? The other one turned towards Artoria. I am Arthur Pendragon. I suppose I cannot hold back anything. His gaze briefly swept the broken bodies of his teammates. Artoria paused, hearing his name. Are you one of his descendants? I am. He nodded, almost uncaring about the battlefield. It is tradition in my family to name each successive generation after the king. I am not the first Arthur Pendragon. But I have grown accustomed to the name, even if I think the convention is droll. A light erupted from his body, and a holy sword appeared in his hand. I wield the strongest holy sword. Caliban, prepare yourself. Artoria narrowed her eyes at the proclamation. I couldn't dare to even guess her thoughts right now. She took her own stance, invisible sword summoned. The sword this Arthur wielded, it was large, like a great sword, but he wielded it expertly. I could tell even Artoria was mildly impressed by his swordsmanship, as she didn't stomp him right from the beginning. But you could begin to see Arthur getting a bit restless. Nearly every move he made was countered with ease and experience he couldn't overcome. Even with Artoria's smaller stature, he was being dealt blows with far greater weight behind them than anything he could muster. He had to practically retreat on every collision. They clashed many times, Arthur never even making a comment on her invisible sword as he gradually got used to its dimensions, even able to counterattack every now and then. I knew Artoria enough to see she was holding back, but I didn't understand why. In fact, it seemed like they were sticking to purely swordsmanship, like an unspoken agreement between both of them. Actually, something strange was happening. I wanted to say that Arthur was hesitant to attack, but even looked rather perplexed at what was happening. After a moment, Artoria even stopped as Arthur's sword swept towards her head. A clean strike, the which could have decapitated her, stopped. Arthur was straining himself, trying his best to force the blade forward, but it refused to budge. It wouldn't even touch her skin with its edge. The sword started to vibrate in Arthur's hands, the holy glow intensified, and Arthur showed a painful look as he suddenly shouted, jumping away, sword falling to the ground and sporting some nasty burns on his hands. The sword sticking up out of the ground, Artoria stared at it. Arthur looked on in shock as she hesitantly placed a hand on the hilt. The blade burst out with a golden light, blindingly bright as it began to shift. Does it change shape to fit the wielder's desire? Artoria muttered at the now much smaller blade, still impaled into the ground. Hello, old friend, it has been a while. It did in fact do that if I recalled correctly. One of the sword's many abilities. The new golden words engraved on the sword were easy to read. Whosoever pulleth out the sword from the stone is rightwise king of all England. Artoria dismissed her invisible sword, gripping Caliban tight and pulling it from the ground without any resistance. What? Arthur whispered, clearly in shock. How? Not even the church. Only someone of his blood should be able to wield that sword. I will be taking this for now. Whether you can regain it in the future has yet to be determined, she declared, almost inviting him to disagree with her. Surrender. This fight is not worth continuing. Arthur looked down at the sword being pointed at him and raised his arms in the air in surrender, seemingly no will to fight in his eyes. Well, isn't that something? Yasaka practically snuck up on me, throwing the body of her opponent on top of Hercules' prone form. I believe a few secrets have been hidden from me, she mused. I guess I was distracted. What? How did you defeat Siegfried? Chow Chow looked at Yasaka in shock. Did you seriously believe this brat who hasn't even seen 3 decades could match me? She scoffed. I have ruled over the Yukai in this region for centuries, boy. The only reason I hadn't crushed you all so easily before was that boy manipulating dimensions and my unwillingness to cause collateral damage. Do you truly think I am defeated? Chow Chow stood up, an edge in his voice, gripping his spear tightly. The hero always slays the monster in the end. By all means, use your balance breaker. I lazily replied. Make this interesting for me. He sneered at me. Balance breaker. Polar Knight Longinus Chakravartin. The holy aura around him exploded out. It became suffocating for someone like me to stand here. A large halo-like ring floated behind him with several orbs. I'm pretty sure each of those orbs corresponds to a specific ability, but the details escape me. Mirage flew into my hand, Dawnbreaker, Whisper, and Ascalon spun around me waiting. I snapped my fingers. A circle of runes burst out underneath Chow Chow. He looked down as they glowed and exploded. What an absurd holy power! I couldn't help but comment, as he was completely enveloped in a shield. It was almost like fighting an archangel. Asusa Ratana, Chow Chow declared as my head snapped behind me, spear being thrust into my back. A pure teleportation, able to slip through my perception. I barely even noticed the space around me shudder. Was it because of the holy power? No time to contemplate. The spire didn't pierce my form shattered as I appeared to the side and swiped my sword at him. Humph! Let's see how you deal with your weapon being destroyed, Chatsuka Ratana. His spear moved towards my sword. A collision of energy burst out at the meeting point of our two weapons. His eyes narrowed and his expression changed. Why won't your sword break? He suddenly shouted as he broke off the attack. Isn't it obvious? I sneered. You're too weak. He tried to use a weapon-breaking ability on me. How adorable. With the Eye of Magnus basically keeping it all together as a linchpin, he's essentially trying to destroy a divine construct. Fine. I will end this in one blow then. He calmed himself, but killing intent was still in his eyes. The holy power around him went another qualitative change. If it was intense before, it was almost obscene now. I felt a sense of danger at this. Balanayaka Ratana, he roared as all the accumulated holy power gathered and released right at me. Shield of Asgard, I put out my strongest defensive spell, and I included a primordial rune in the creation. It was big enough to envelop both Yasaka and Artoria, so they didn't get swept up in our battle. The buildings behind me were obliterated, and even through the shield, I felt the intense light try to penetrate into me. Impossible! Chow Chow muttered as the attack finally died down, to see me standing strong after what was probably his strongest attack. His arm sagged, and his spear no longer holding its powerful killing intent. Good! His spirit has broken, just as his faction has. Shouldn't have targeted my daughter. Gaa! He let out a scream as my swords pierced him from all directions, falling to the ground. His spear fell next to him with a clank. I want it! You might be able to take it. It has its own amount of intelligence. Really? That or kill you, call it a coin flip. I'll try later, maybe. I shook my head, putting it into my ring without touching it. Well, that takes care of that then. Yasaka walked up to Chow Chow, staring at his unmoving body. My swords returned to my ring, but he still didn't move. I'm pretty sure he's still alive, but none of my business anymore, and I'm sure Yasaka also wants her pound of flesh. All yours to deal with, I said towards the Yukai leader. You give me the best presents. She cooed. Lady Yasaka, I request suitable imprisonment for this one. Artoria walked up, Arthur awkwardly following behind her. Yasaka stared at him, her rage very much still apparent. I will not execute him, but he will be punished. That is all I ask. She nodded. I didn't speak up. The look in her eyes was rather telling. I could see that Artoria felt some sense of responsibility for the one who claimed to be her alternate's descendant. I would leave it to her to deal with him then. Actually, I think they're all still alive. I muttered, looking around, and saw Kanla still breathing haggardly, having been unable to free himself. Jean was still bound, her body a mess, and her arm looked dead. Hercules was broken underneath the other one. Or rather Siegfried. Pretty sure he might be dead, actually. George was a bit better if handicapped now, but unconscious, and Chow Chow. Well, fuck him. I paid no mind to the growing pool of blood forming around him. All's well that ends well. I guess it's time to clean up this mess. Chapter 89. The remnants of the attack were dealt with swiftly. The only reason they managed this level of destruction and chaos was due to the nature of their attack. I didn't really listen on the details, but apparently one of the elders, who was close to Yasaka, was apparently a spy, or just fed up with her in general and aligned himself with the rabble. The hero faction were taken and confined to wherever Yasaka keeps her dungeon. Only Siegfried died. Several others are in critical condition. They are keeping them alive, mostly for questioning, but alive they are. Unfortunately, I couldn't remove their sacred gears, without killing them, that is. All of them except for Jean. They were more like concepts that wrapped around their souls than actual items like the boosted gear. Less tangible, and I didn't know if they would die or not, and Yasaka seemed to want them alive for some very advanced interrogation. Perhaps I'll get the chance to do something with them later. Jean, though, I just couldn't touch her sacred gear, due to the holy nature. But I helped seal them tight. George's was surprisingly difficult to keep down. It seemed to want to escape whatever I did at any moment. Well, one of the lot was up and about. And he won't do anything? Yasaka questioned Artoria. He gave me his word. He will not forego his punishment, nor will he bring you any harm. Artoria nodded. Yasaka looked at me. I trust her with my life. And her instinct was frighteningly accurate. She seemed to accept that, and just turned to the one prisoner who was not bound. You plotted against me, and many of my people are dead. Yes. Arthur spoke, not even speaking anything in his defense. The only reason you haven't been thoroughly forced to speak everything you know is your thin relations with Artoria. Yasaka added. Artoria never spoke of her connection with him, and by extension the Pendragon family, but the physical similarities between the two of them was rather hard to miss. Not to mention the glowing holy sword that denoted her the true King of England. Why? Yasaka finally asked, seemingly exasperated. To protect my sister. Do you expect me to sympathize with you? Yasaka scoffed. No, I merely gave an answer. Arthur shook his head. Yasaka seemed annoyed with his answer but wanted more information regardless. What happened to your sister? My family would not relinquish her, and I was already doing everything I could to pressure them into not hurting my lover. Arthur explained. She is a genius magician, perhaps only matched by her namesake. Since I left, they had doubled down on their control over here. I don't know how it happened, but Chow Chow made them back off and brought her out from under them. Yasaka huffed, clenching her fists in anger, then letting out a long sigh. You didn't actually harm any of my people, nor did you have a direct hand in my daughter's suffering. I can more or less guess what your relationship is with this Chow Chow. She rubbed her temples. 20 years of servitude. No doubt with your abilities, living past a normal human's lifespan would be a simple matter. I will serve to the best of my abilities. Arthur dropped his head in a bow. A knight does make a vow like this lightly, Artorius said sternly. My word is my bond, he replied. I would offer my sword, but I feel like I would get beaten up if I take it out. You have another weapon? Artoria asked. Yes, I only used Caliban under dire circumstances. He stated. I usually stuck to using Excalibur ruler. Excalibur, ruler. Artoria repeated the words, almost like they were poison in her mouth. Take it out. Arthur just blinked, not seeing any negative looks from Yasaka, and nodded, pulling out the sword from wherever he kept it. Artoria snatched it, her expression unreadable, but I could tell her emotions were very turbulent. This is not Excalibur. She sighed, placing her hands on either end and snapping the blade like it was made of wood. Let it rest in peace, she said quietly, placing the pieces back into his hands. Arthur just stared at the pieces his sword had once been. Even Yasaka looked genuinely surprised at what Artoria had just done. You said your family, the Pendragon family, is holding your lover hostage? She spoke up again. Yes, Arthur said quietly. I fell in love with one of the maids working at the family estate. Damn it, I'm not really in the mood to make a joke with that. Perform your duties well, and I shall go retrieve her at a later date. Artoria turned around and walked away. Apparently, she needed a moment to herself. Not that I could blame her. Well, I broke the small silence. I guess that puts an end to this matter. Yasaka looked, unamused, pacing back and forth for a few more moments. I think she wanted to ask some things, but she refrained for now. It also seems Yasaka still has much to say to this young man who is on the wrong end of her ire. Wilhelm, bring me to see my daughter before I start kicking him out of annoyance. Yasaka finally turned away from the blonde knight. With pleasure. Gathering both Artoria and Yasaka, we entered Zelretch's living room. It was rather spacious, all things considered, and there wasn't anything particularly private in the area, so I felt fine bringing a guest here. Mommy! A shout across the building drew all our attentions. My little fox! Yasaka swept her daughter up in her arms. Zelretch and Rin followed right after her. Thank you so much. Yasaka turned her eyes towards the two unfamiliar people. Think nothing of it. Zelretch gave a gentle smile. I was more than happy to meet my great-granddaughter, he said with a laugh. Oh, God damn it. Whatever. Wilhelm spoke of you briefly. It's good to finally meet you. Yasaka gave a polite bow towards Zelretch. Oh, here we go. It seems my grandson is still up to no good with the ladies. Zelretch chuckled. Do I have yet another granddaughter now? I'm trying, Yasaka replied. He just continues to heartlessly reject my confessions. Yasaka dramatically feigned heartache. Daddy. Kunu slipped out of Yasaka's grasp and collided with me. I couldn't help but wrap my arms around her. Did you have fun with Gramps? Uh-huh, he showed me some toys he made. Ruby was really nice too. Oh, that could only end well. Who's Ruby? Yasaka asked, turning towards Rin. No. Rin denied. I'm Rin Tosaka. Another of Wilhelm's harem, is it? What? No. Rin shouted shock, before turning towards me. Wait, you have a harem? You didn't know? Yasaka tilted her head, eyeing me. You didn't tell her? I pushed this question off to Artoria. I never found the time to bring it up. She turned slightly red. Zelretch just cackled. Was Saber not enough for you? You man whore. Rin pointed at me. Rin, jealously isn't a good look on you. Who would be jealous of you? Kids. Zelretch stepped forward. Humph. Rin crossed her arms, clearly overcome with jealousy. What a fun bunch you are. Yasaka smiled. I really can't you all enough. Kyoto is always open to you, and I would love to host you at some point. She stopped for a moment, taking in her surroundings. Why does it feel so strange here? Never been to Kyoto. Rin mused, seemingly changing the subject with haste. Actually, I never been to anywhere in Japan outside of Fuyuki. Isn't that in the Oita prefecture? She tilted her head. Yeah, I'm the second over there. Rin beamed. Second owner? Yasaka asked in confusion. Rin paused. It's a mage thing. She waved her hand dismissively. Yasaka didn't dwell on it, thankfully. A trip would be lovely. I'll see if I can squeeze in the time for a future visit. Zelretch lied with practiced ease. How much effort would it take for him to leave this world line like that? I apologize for the suddenness of my visit, and now I'm leaving abruptly as well, but with the recent attack on my territory, I have a great many things I need to take care of. Yasaka spoke, clearly indicating that she needed to leave. My dear, is it completely understandable? Zelretch quickly eased her discomfort. I'm sure we'll be seeing much more of each other. I do of course wish for my great-granddaughter to visit as well. He is really enjoying this. Yeah, keep playing it up. I rolled my eyes. I'll take you both back. Kunu was still grabbing me as I pat her head, and Yasaka gave me a smile. Yasaka said her goodbyes. I opened a portal for us, right back where we left. You going to be okay? I looked towards Yasaka briefly, before taking in the damage around the area. We should be fine, comparatively. She sighed. I thought we cleaned up enough last time, and here we are again doing this all over again. At least I'm positive we weeded out all the traitors this time. I thought for a moment before taking out several talismans. Kunu, sweetie. I knelt down next to her. Would you do Daddy a favor and keep this on you at all times? What do they do? They're good luck charms. I made them especially for you. I gave her a smile. Experimental, but they should trigger upon receiving an attack of sufficient damage. Okay. She happily took them. Yasaka looked me over and sighed again. You really are a good man. She gave a small smile, watching her daughter's happy expression. Before and now, how am I supposed to pay you back if you keep rejecting me? She gave a light laugh. To say I don't have a soft spot for her would be a lie. We barely know each other. I know I'm being hypocritical for saying that, but it just felt different this time. It makes it even weirder considering I have basically accepted Kunu as my daughter. She just laughed. Maybe I've been going about this wrong then? I like the mischievous side of you. I admitted. But I can rarely tell if you're being sincere or not, and I don't want my heart played with. She paused, her expression changing. I see. Is that how you felt? She muttered to herself, seemingly lost in thought before sighing again. Kunu, sweetie, say goodbye to Daddy. Come back soon. She wrapped me up tight again. Of course. I hugged her back. Please come back and visit soon. Kunu has grown rather attached. Yasaka rubbed her daughter's head. Though she isn't the only one wanting you to visit more. Perhaps we can spend some time together later. I offered. I would like that. Yasaka brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, giving a bright smile as I left through a portal. I let out a long breath as I stepped back into Zelretch's workshop. Long day? He asked, gesturing for me to have a seat. Has Artoria told you everything? I sat right next to the mentioned woman. Some things, he replied, but filling in the blanks would be helpful. Yeah, Like why was there a phantasmal beast, a nine-tailed fox dropped on top of me? Rin deadpanned. You mean that literally, or? Quite literal. Zelretch chuckled. Damn, I'm good. I hate you. Rin drolled. All right, I got some goodies for you from my trip. I'll give them to you later. You better. Rin huffed. I looked at Artoria, and I couldn't help but put my arm around her shoulder. She gave a small smile as she nudged herself closer to me. So, basically, that was Yasaka. She rules over half the Yukai in Japan. I'm on pretty friendly terms with her. Friendly terms? Rin raised an eyebrow. Yeah, I can think of 2 big reasons for that. Well, her breasts are magnificent, I can't deny that. Anyways, I expertly changed the subject. Long story short, saved her daughter, blah blah. That was the first time Artoria came over, met Izanami, things happened. Next thing I know, they are attacked again and I kind of panicked and sent Kuna here because it was the safest place I knew. That's actually really adorably. Rin sighed. How come she was calling you daddy? I may have been adopted by her. I admitted. Well, I approve. Zelretch nodded. She is a wonderful little girl. I look forward to spoiling her. I guess she handled Ruby well, too. Rin muttered something about how cute Kunu was and how she was called Auntie. But, thanks for the help and looking after her. I said sincerely. Honestly, I don't think I could handle anything happening to Kunu. You've known her for how long? Rin looked surprised. I know. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. Don't know what happened, just got rather attached so quickly. Am I projecting my own father issues onto this situation? Zelretch shrugged. Why even question it? It doesn't harm anything, and everyone involved is happier for it. That is a good way to look at it. Fuck it, then. She's my daughter, I'm adopting her. How you doing? I turned towards Artoria. I am. Still processing what happened. She looked down at her hands. I know it is not the same as our world, but still, some things still weigh on my mind. She waved her hand, bring out Caliban. Is that what I think it is? Rin's eyes widened. Indeed, at least that world's version. It is a very peculiar blade. Yeah, I think the God of the Bible even had a hand in its creation. I added. Zelretch rubbed his chin. Curious. I wouldn't mind taking a look at it later. Speaking of, I also have this, but it's refusing to obey me. I took out Graham and set it on the coffee table. Yasaka didn't even question my intent to take spoils, but the others didn't really grab my attention. I prefer quality over quantity. Oh my, that is a nasty sword. Zelretch admired it. Feels rather demonic. Graham, so it's about what you would expect, just not a noble phantasm. I left the others with Yasaka. None of them really caught my fancy, and Graham is being very combative with me. It's weird seeing a legendary sword like this, and it not being a noble phantasm. Rin hesitantly touched the flat of the blade. A small whiff of demonic power pricked her finger as she gave a small yelp. Stupid sword, she muttered. So, how's your projects going? I asked. Rin gave a SOSO gesture. Probably need a couple more weeks to finish up. Damn, a few weeks. I don't want to rush her, but, I want to see Meridia again, but heading there before without them just feels like it would lead to more issues. I mean, time isn't flowing the same for her, so it's only on my end I'm feeling the time. I guess I can keep putting up with this for a bit longer. That's fine. I guess I can see to some other matters. I turned back to Zelretch. Been feeling a bit restless. Figured I would end my little vacation here. And I still have that list you gave me. I was thinking of investigating one of the worlds you left notes on. Something there caught my interest. Oh, which one? He asked. Honestly the name escapes me, but you made a note of it having a broken moon? Chapter 90. Interlude 4. Rias Grammary POV. Mother. I greeted as I entered the house. She gave a warm smile, wrapping me up in a hug. It was nice to see her. Going to the human world for school made it, so I would sometimes go days without even visiting Mom or Dad. Father. I looked towards the man who sold me away. Rias. He replied curtly, not even looking the least upset that I'm still barely speaking to him. Well, I've known about the arranged marriage since I was a child, but recently he's completely stonewalled me from even bringing up any alternatives. I wasn't against marrying someone, but why did it have to be that idiot Riser? He only sees me for either my grammar name or my body. He couldn't even make a half-assed effort to get to know me before drooling all over my boobs. Even if I didn't want to be here, mostly because of Dad, it was the first time we've all gotten together in weeks, since Takao went missing and everyone started fighting. I walked into the dining room, seeing the maids start setting out dishes and silverware everywhere. "Hello, Rias." I turned, recognizing the voice. "Brother." I smiled towards Serzex, who strolled in with Grafia right behind him. "How are you doing, Rias?" Serzex smiled, opening his arms for a hug. He wasn't wearing his formal Satan clothing. That was a good sign. Good, considering. I embraced him briefly. "Grafia." I looked towards my sister-in-law. "Hello, Rias." Grafia gave a neutral smile, clearly not in her maid mode. She prioritizes being a queen, and maid over being brother's wife. Still, though, she never takes off her maid outfit. I was happy to see them, but it just felt so awkward. It was like everyone was forces themselves to keep up appearances. The table was prepared rather quickly, everyone filling in. "Where's Millikas?" "Father wanted to spend some time with him." Mother responded politely. "Oh, he's with grandfather." "Rias, we have some news." Dad broke the new silence. "The Phoenix family is pushing to move up the marriage date." "What?" I stood up, slamming my hands on the table. "I was told I could wait until I'm done with college." "Rias, behave." Mother lightly chided. "Listen to everything before you get upset." I took a deep breath, settling back down. Mother was actually on my side, not wanting me to be forced into a marriage I didn't want. As I was saying, the Phoenix family was pushing to move up the date. We were talking about it in a few weeks. But after everything that's happened, he glanced towards brother, it's going to be a few months instead, possibly up to half a year. I was promised until after college. "No, you were not." Father sternly replied. "You were told we would let you continue through your schooling as long as you kept up with all your responsibilities. I have. I'm gone to every gathering you wanted me to, every party, and every stupid political dinner." I threw my hands up. "You have." He nodded. "But that's not everything, is it? Tell me, how's your peerage doing? How's your training coming along? It's been a year, I believe, since the last time you showed off your power. I'm excited to see how much you've grown," he said dryly. I winced at what he was implying. "I train every day." I countered. "Rias, doing the same pitiful exercises every day does not count as training." He shook his head. "Not to mention your peerage." "What's wrong with my peerage?" "Rias, your peerage is a complete mess. It's a reflection of you as a devil, and in essence, a reflection of our family. To call them dysfunctional would be generous." He sighed. "And I hear you added another piece upon? How did that turn out?" "I made a mistake." I shrunk in my seat. He was supposed to have a sacred gear, but he still has a dragon bloodline. A dragon bloodline is impressive. Father agreed. "So what are you doing to bring out his full potential?" "Training." "The same training you subject yourself to every day." He raised an eyebrow. He picked up a napkin, wiping his mouth. "Rias, I know you don't agree with this marriage, and I have given you ample time to prepare, to fight for yourself, yet you squandered it playing around in the human world." "What?" I looked at him in shock. "Rias, it's obvious you were planning on using a rating game to decide your fate." He rolled his eyes. "Do you think I'm stupid? I didn't interfere because if you could get out of this mess yourself, then I would have no qualms about your future partner. Unfortunately, you seem intent on just wasting all your time away and just whining that life isn't fair, even with all the tools available for you to succeed." "What tools? You stopped anyone from helping me." I raised my voice. "I stopped your brother from using his political power because it would set a very bad precedent. And we both know he would have helped you without a second thought." We both glanced at Serzex, who just gave a small smile and nodded. "And tools? Rias, I'm tempted to walk over there and smack you upside the head." He deadpanned. "You have nearly unlimited resources available to you in the form of money and manpower. You could have hired tutors, bought weapons. Hell, you could have found peerage members by just broadcasting your name all over the world." He stood up, slamming his hands on the table this time. "But you've done nothing. So you don't get to whine about this marriage. You don't get to prance around and pretend like you're some caged bird. You made your bed. It's time to lay in it." He sat back down. You've been given a set allowance for now on, and any requests will be going through me. My eyes widened as I stared at my father. He didn't even lift his head up to look at me, and I turned towards Mother. Mom! Rias, I love you dearly, but you need to understand that actions have consequences. She calmly stated, You have been too complacent for far too long. But I'm the heir. Wouldn't it look bad if I become some kind of trophy wife for Riser of all people? I tried to lean on the family angle. Rias, you will always be taken care of, but you are far from the only one able to shoulder the family. Mother replied, Millikas is just as talented as you when it comes to his power of destruction. Who knows how strong he'll be in the future? She explained, not to mention my other grandson. She shot a look at Zelretch, making him frown. I didn't know what to say. It seems like everything was suddenly falling apart. That reminds me, how's Okita? Zelretch. Mother stared intently at brother. He took a deep breath. He is recovering, Zelretch said evenly. What happened to Uncle Okita? I couldn't help but ask. Recovering? We have a store of phoenix tears for things like this. Are they not enough? Okita got in a bit of a scuffle with your nephew. Mother spoke. I turned towards Zelretch, who just stared down at his place, and Grafia, who looked like she no longer wanted to be here. The news is spreading quite fast, though most people don't know who was able to put Okita into the hospital. Even after a few phoenix tears were used, he's still bedridden. Mother continued, I've only been able to get a few pictures so far, but they show a lot of magic being thrown around. Yes, it's hard to miss a goddess delivering the body of one of our most popular devils onto our front door. Grafia spoke for the first time this evening, and it was only to take a jab at brother. I guess they're still fighting. What happened? I asked quietly. The details are a bit vague, but Okita and your nephew fought over in Kyoto, under the supervision of one of the Yukai leaders, apparently Izanami no Makoto, was there as well and is quite close to our wayward grandson. She did not take too kindly to Okita being aggressive as he was. Japan's death goddess attacked Okita. I couldn't help but ask in shock. No. Mother shook her head. She merely delivered his body to us. He was beaten in a duel by Wilhelm. Who's Wilhelm? I asked. Ah, that is your nephew. Apparently he has a new name. Mother explained. Don't worry, this is the first time I am learning of this as well. She shot another glare at brother. What? I shouted in surprise. How did he beat Okita? Okita is like one of the strongest in the underworld. I mean, he can't compare to brother in Search, but he's still one of the strongest knights, even if he isn't at the top. That is quite the mystery, isn't it? How did my grandson beat someone with centuries of experience and power under his belt? Unfortunately, we'll never know because he does not wish to come back. Mother, Zelretch sighed. Are you really going to do this right now? What? Do you expect me to stop bringing it up? To ignore the fact that I have a grandson whom I will probably never meet? Mother narrowed her eyes. Is it that he wasn't strong enough for you? That he didn't have any power of destruction? That didn't seem to matter when he promptly handed Okita his ass. She huffed. You told me when you were first sending him away that he would be looked after and lead a normal life, not that he would be shuttled away to a corner in Kuo and forgotten about. Okita held back. Zelretch spat out, ignoring everything else she said. There was no way he would have lost if he was fighting at his best. Oh, then why did he say that Wilhelm held back substantially as well? Mother countered, earning a glare from brother. I did go meet him now, just because I am annoyed at you and by extension him, doesn't mean I don't care for his well-being. She didn't back down from brother's clearly annoyed expression. According to Okita, he was well-versed in magic and had a mastery of swordplay well beyond what his age and experience should have allowed. Your son defeated your knight in single combat, and it's only a matter of time before everyone knows this. So what exactly is your plan now? What even was your plan then? Grab him, force him back here where he clearly didn't want to be. I would think of something, he muttered. As long as he's back, then things would be fine. Because everything would fit back into your picturesque idea of a life. Strongest devil, with the strongest queen as his wife, a genius son, sitting high up on his throne. What's missing from that picture? You have everything you could want, but here's this little black spot called Wilhelm, and you see it and can't help but try and hide it. Zelretch stood up, The screeching of his chair silenced the room. He took the napkin in his lap and threw it on the table, walking out of the room. Mother just sighed. That stupid son of mine just doubles down with his stubbornness. She shook her head. You tried. Father gently pat her shoulder. I'll go try and stop him from doing anything foolish. Grafia sighed, following after him. How? How did Takao, Wilhelm get so strong? Okita wasn't the strongest, nor even in the top 20 of the underworld, but he was definitely up there. I've seen him train Kiba a bit. I've watched videos of him fighting, yet the thought of him losing to someone my age seemed impossible. And now I have to deal with my marriage moving up. What am I going to do?